Good evening and welcome to the track portion of the Spring Sports Coaches Meeting. And I want to make a reference to two things that I think you will need to read thoroughly and understand thoroughly. One, of course, is the coaches packet, as I'm showing you here, and the other is the track and field rules, which are both in the emails that you got today, and they're available on the website for your perusal, and you really need to use these as your Bible. So, focusing in on the Spring Sports packet at first, we want to refer you to the program planner, which is on page 3, and you can see the various dates. The first scheduled track meet is scheduled to start on March 27th, and pretty much every Sunday in between except for Easter. And you can read the other parts of the planner there. You're attending this meeting, as you know. The deadline to register athletes is the 20th on the online rosters, and all the fees have to be in the 21st. That's pretty much it. What you need to know, the ADs have to know a lot more, and we'll take care of the rest of the information. Points of emphasis on page 4, I'm going to point out a couple things. One, right up at the heading, your team may not merge with another team if you have 10 or more members on your team. And I think that's been a standard now we've established for the last couple of years. If you have 10 or more, you should have your own team. You can go to a coach from another team and join them as a separate entity and have that coach coach both teams. That's a strong possibility. Points of emphasis in uniforms has been really lessened over the years. Jewelry is certainly not an issue anymore, except it's dangerous, and then we have to take it off. Uniforms themselves, you have to really think about the uniform for track and field. It's a t-shirt or shirt and shorts. Shirt and shorts, remember that. Very important. Anything that you wear under your uniform, under your shirt, under your shorts, is called a foundation garment. And those can be any color, any design, anything that your heart can imagine that you can buy. The only thing is that they both need to be covered by your team uniform. The biggest problem runs into the issue with boys and certainly with girls mostly, but boys too, with the tights. They think that they can wear the tights like they do when they go to the mall and go shopping, go to church or whatever. In track and field, you must cover your tights with shorts because that is your uniform. The tights are not your uniform. And that is a big concern that's come up over the past couple of years. We'll talk about the athlete numbers and participation forms and event tickets at a later time today. And the regular season format, you can see, is going back to a format that we had 2 years ago before COVID, actually 3 years ago before COVID, and that was weeks 1, 3, and 5. The boys were competed in the field events first, while all girls compete in the running events first. And then somewhere in the middle, obviously, you switch over. So that's a reversal from last year, and we didn't have any program the year before that. Weeks 2 and 4, the girls will compete in the field events first, the boys in the running events. All boys and girls will report at 1 o'clock. Last year we did a little differently, so let's remember now, everybody reports at 1 o'clock, and all the events run down according to the schedule, which we'll talk about later. And you can see some of the order is listed there on page 4. I won't necessarily go over that. You can read it yourself. Page 5, the different grades and how they're called to the field events, and formation of heats, the staggers, and so on and so forth down that page 5, which you can read all the way through. I will talk about a little bit later on the meet officials and the volunteers, and particularly the volunteers. But for now, just know that there's going to be 3 meet officials at every meet, 3 OHSAA officials, and they will act as the starter, the clerk, and the field event judge. The site director or the site may provide up to 10 people to work the meet, and then the host parish, which will be what we call pods, and we'll talk about that later, they are to provide the rest of the workers for the running of the meet. And that really entails about 30 people in total. If the host can give 10, then the school, who is the host, needs to provide 20 people to work the whole meet, not just half the meet, but the whole meet. And again, we'll go through that a little more in detail later on. The 8th grade championship will be, information will go out later, but for now, know that there'll be 2 divisions and the teams will be basically cut in half by your team size. We'll talk about that. And district qualifiers and the section meet for 6th and 7th grade will also be held. And that's a championship for 6th and 7th grade on the day before the 8th grade qualifiers. And lightning and so on. Refer you to page 7, theathletic.net, which talks to you about how we record our results. So it's your job as a coach to find someone, or do it yourself if you really want to take a lot of time at the end of a long day. But somewhere along the line on Sunday, Monday, to no later than Tuesday, you have to put all your results into athletic.net based on the individual performance of all your runners. We'll talk about how you get that and how you assimilate that, but read through this. It's very easy once you get used to and accustomed to the athletic.net format, but in the beginning it sounds a little intimidating. Really isn't as bad as you think it might be. On page 9, you will see the pods that are referred to, and that's just a sample of the pods that were from last year. So, for example, this is not necessarily going to be, but these were the teams that entered last year. At a particular meet at Padua, let's say, you might have team number 5, St. Anthony of Padua, assigned as the pod or the host parish. So St. Anthony of Padua has to supply 20 people. I'm the meet director, so I supply myself and about 10 people, and then the officials are there too. And with all those people, 30 to 35 people, we can get that meet accomplished in a quick period of time. And as far as sites are concerned, that's still being worked out, and that's pretty much what we're going to go through on that. Now, I was asked to kind of talk about, in total, the way that we go through the track meet. So in other words, what do you need to do as a coach before the track meet, what do you need to do when you get there, and so on and so forth, to get some information out to the newer coaches. And in part of that, we'll go through some of the rules and some of the format and some of the other things that we're talking about here. Basically, the best thing that you need to think about is the night before the meet or right before the meet, somehow, a few days before the meet, prepare some sort of a roster of events that you're going to put all your athletes in. And they can compete in up to 3 events, and you'll read that information inside. They should stay within their division, which would be whatever their grade division is. They can move up for a relay and then back down to their division, as you'll read in there, just to make it a better opportunity, a better experience for all the kids. That's a very important thing. So you have that all ready to go. Previous to that, you will get an assignment of numbers that will be assigned to your athletes. For example, St. Charles, my team, would get, say, numbers 500 to 599. Okay? So I need to sit down and assign the various kids on my team a particular number. And when they show up at the meet, and some people use sticker labels on, probably not such a good idea in the inclement weather, but sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. We find a better way is to write it with magic marker on our hand. So I, Kevin Lee, would be number 501. So when I come in breathless after finishing the 100-yard dash, I can identify myself as number 501 to the person who's doing the time onto the ticket, and then I can be identified as to my parish, and therefore that time will then go into an envelope, and that envelope go to the coach at the end of the day. And he will collect then all his starting time, all his finishing times from all the races and all the field events, the distances and the jumps and so on and so forth. So it's very important that you make sure that the kids know their numbers, put them on their hand, and when they report to the event, they'll have a shirt on that says St. Charles or St. Joseph and John, but identify themselves with their number. Most of the time in the field events and even in the running events, they won't take their name. They'll just go with the number. It's a lot easier and quicker. Write it on the tag. The athlete takes the tag. Generally, most sites operate like my site does. They will take the little ticket or tag or ticket over to the table, score table, and the lady and gentleman sitting there will sit down, write, okay, 501, your time in the 100 was 9.96, or whatever the case may be. And likewise in the field events, The people working the field events will do the same thing, write the number, and then put down the distance or that they jumped or threw. So that's very important. Then that goes back, and then they put in a little envelope, St. Charles envelope, and then at the end of the meet, the coach will come up, collect all those, and that's the information that needs to go online. Okay, so when you arrive at your track meet on Sunday, generally at 1 o'clock, most of them all will be at 1 o'clock on Sunday, you want to have all your team there, grades 1, grades 3 to 6, 3 to 8, 3 to 8, for boys and girls, all at the same time, starts at 1 o'clock. That's a little bit of a difference from last year. We already talked about sometimes the boys will do the field events first and girls running. Sometimes it'll be the opposite, boys field and girls running. So you have to watch the weeks and make sure that you're aware of which is going to go first and that. All right, so you come to the track meet about an hour early, let's say, set up your tent or your camp or whatever you want to place yourself so that the kids know where you are in the stands, assign their numbers, get them to get some warm-ups, and then kind of get ready to go into the day and the actual activities. At 30 minutes before the scheduled start, there will be a coaches meeting. That is a mandatory coaches meeting. If you don't have a head coach, if the head coach is not there at 12:30, then a representative of every parish needs to be there. There are a lot of things discussed there that will clarify issues that are related to the particular site, places where there are where are the restrooms, where are this, where's that, and you need to have somebody at that meeting. That's been a little bit of a lax opportunity for many coaches, and what happens is the meet bogs down because coaches didn't get the information and then they show up late for an event or whatever the case may be. So we need to have a head coach or a representative of your parish at that coaches meeting at 12:30. All right, so they leave that. In the meantime, we're getting the activities ready. As a meet director, I'm getting the site ready. I'm getting the workers ready. If you're the host parish, you've got to give me your 20 workers. We write them down. We assign them to the various field events or as a timer, whatever the case may be. We get them all trained and ready to go. About 10 minutes before the meet starts, then we'll have the prayer and call everybody who's in the first event, which we'll get to in a minute, down to the bullpen. Generally, and every site runs a little differently, but generally the bullpen is down by the start of the 100-yard dash so that the athletes can then move down toward the starting line from the bullpen. All right, please get your athletes to the bullpen on time. That's a very important part of the whole process. The faster they get there, the faster we can run the events, the faster we can all go home. So, okay, 1 o'clock we start. Let's say that day we're running girls' field events first, so that would call according to the list, which we already saw, and we'll see again in the rules. Which grade, I'll call the 6th grade, running long jump, 5th grade, standing long jump, 3rd grade, shot put, 4th grade, whatever, high jump, they don't do the high jump, 6th grade, high jump, whatever. So every grade will be then assigned, and they'll go through that little schema of which grade goes in which order for the field events. In the meantime, the boys are over doing the running events. We'll be calling them by event. So we'll call the 1600, and then we'll call the 100, and then we'll call the hurdles, and so on down the list. Meet goes on. Everything goes along pretty smoothly, we hope. And you keep your kids under control, get them to their various events, and as they finish, they are obviously ready to leave. You come down at the end of the meet, give us 2 or 3 minutes to finish up putting the last few tickets into the envelopes. Pick up your bag of envelopes, take it home. If you found a nice parent or helper who can then put that information into athlete.net, that's obviously great. Or yourself can do it over the next couple days. And that pretty much is the gamut of what will occur at the track meet itself. Now I'm going to go over to the rules and just kind of skim through them to see that we're all pretty much on the same page. Again, please read all this information thoroughly, because not a lot has changed, but it's even stuff that way more than any other sport. You've got a lot of rules and a lot of things that you have to follow. All right, official team, we pretty much have covered that already. If you have 10 kids, you have to form your own team. Officials, we talked about equipment. We talked about the uniforms already, of course. Quarter-inch spikes. Talk about the shot puts. Do not bring shot puts. I repeat, do not bring shot puts or discs to the event. We will supply all that. You should supply a relay baton if you have one. If you don't, we always have extra and we can supply them. But for the regular meets, you should try to bring one for the whole group. Going through the rules, we talked about the uniforms, talked about the bottom and the foundation garments. There was a lot of talk here in here that CWIL coaches with their lanyard on are the people that we will recognize as coming down onto the field or questioning anything at any one of the sites. Now, in deference to basketball, volleyball, baseball, where you have a set place, a bench, or a dugout, or whatever, obviously at a track meet, coaches are roaming all over the place. You also have more than one coach. So it's very important that the lanyard be on. Parents and spectators are always there and can ask questions, of course, but anything that comes up that's of any concern, we need to have the lanyard on, know who I'm talking to, and what school they're from. In your area at the site, you are responsible for keeping it nice and clean and leaving it the same way it was before you showed up. That's very important. We get these mostly wonderful high school sites, the Catholic high schools, and they don't have a lot of staff for cleanup. It's our responsibility to clean up after ourselves, and that's a very important thing. So please remember to do that at the end of the meet. If you bring tents, you have to understand that most of these tracks have artificial turf, so you can't take a tent, and we don't put tents on the inside of the field anyway. At track and field, normally, maybe one or two sites might, but you can't stake them in there. You have to use weighted bags. If you put them on the outside, you have to put them in a designated area. Don't just expect to be able to put a 30-foot tent up for your parish if there's a small area and all the other teams want to also join in that opportunity. So think about that and think about everybody in the program before you start staking things in. Okay. Anything about weather, lightning, and inclement weather will be left up to the site director before the meet starts, and then once the meet starts, it's up to the officials. Understand that lightning and thunder is the responsibility of the officials, and by their mantra that they go by from their federation, they cannot have an event start within 30 minutes of a thunder or a lightning strike. So understand that you may think, okay, we're going to start, lightning came at 1:02, we can start the meet at 1:32, well at 1:12, there's another bang, and you get another strike of lightning, that makes it 1:42 when you can start. So it causes a lot of concern, everybody has the same issue, they want to get out of there, et cetera, but the point is we have to have a safe environment for the athletes. Our concern on the CYO side and the administration side is the safety of everybody. Not just keep running them in and running them out. So understand that there are decisions made by the officials and they are final. Those are not up for discussion. You really have to keep tune with all the announcements too. If you don't listen, your kids will not get to the events on time and issues will come up. So please make sure you listen to the announcements, listen to the divisions that are called, and get to the proper site at the proper time. Page 6 of your rules lists the various events that you can enter your athletes in, and then there's the order of events in section D there that you can read at your own leisure. We talked about the event tickets and so on and so forth. And other stipulations for the running events and the field events are pretty much listed all there. You can read those through. They're very specific and very thorough. One of the biggest problems that we run into in track and field is that people don't know the rules. So they think that there's a questionable decision made by a judge or a worker, and they'll come screaming out of the stands or over the fence or whatever that this wasn't done correctly when they don't know the rules. And the rules are listed right here. The workers are instructed on the rules, and the workers will then, come officiate the meet using those rules and those stipulations. if you want your parents to get involved, then they need to know exactly all these different things under the long jump, standing jump, high jump, et cetera, et cetera. So I really urge you to even give your parents copies of these rules specific to the events that their kids are in, so that they know what they're talking about how we determine when ties happen in the high jump. How do we determine it? When two athletes both get the same distance in the running long jump, who gets first and who gets second? Oh, you go to the second jump? Okay, that makes sense. What if they're tied in the second jump? Then you go to the third jump. Okay, that makes sense too. High jump a little different, so you got to read through that and you understand that better. We talked about the meet format as we did before. So weeks 1, 3, and 5, the boys will be in the field first. 2 and 4, the girls will be in the field first. And then on page 11, you will see the little chart graph of how the athletes compete. So the boys are in the field events at 1 o'clock on that particular day. I'm going to stand there and say first call for the 5th grade, just as is listed here on page 11. 5th grade long jump, 4th grade standing jump, 3rd grade shot put, 5th and 6th grade high jump, and 6th through 8th grade discus. And that's the time to send your athletes to the event. And then we'll get you more information in a section and championship meets as the season moves along. It talks about section 11. The last section is about caution and disqualification. One of the nicest things about track, and having been involved in it for over 50 years, is that these things don't happen as often as they do in many other sports. In fact, rarely do they happen in track and field. You will find, if you're new to this sport, and if you've already been here, you will already know that there's a lot of collegiality amongst athletes and parents. Everybody wants everybody to do well. There is competition, for sure, but it isn't necessarily, blood and guts competition at the track level. It's more of a collegial level. Everybody's happy when someone clears the crossbar in the high jump, no matter who it is, and sets a record or a personal record or whatever the case may be. And we really don't run into many problems along that line, and we're very happy about that. And as such, we think that we're setting a prime example for the whole CYO program, which needs to come up to our high standard in the track and field arena. So that pretty much covers the stuff that I wanted to cover here as far as the coaches meeting. Again, there's a lot of stuff in here packed with information that you need to read and scrutinize at your own time, and get that information out to your parents too and your athletes, so that they know exactly what's going to be expected of them at the various track meets. So with that, I think I'll turn it back to, I guess I could send you on your way. You're all done with the track and field portion of the meeting, and I think you've now passed the standard of being at the coaches meeting. Congratulations, we'll see you at a track meet coming up.